The next person to bring up is Rory Moore. And I'm so excited to have him here. Thanks, Rory, for being with us.
I blew 2 lights to get here.
And he blew 2 lights. Because, you know, this wasn't just about a meeting place between Qualcomm and MIT and entrepreneurs, you know, from MIT and faculty from MIT. It also is a meeting place with the San Diego innovation ecosystem. And I know that on the program we had Steve Poizner as well. He unfortunately had a family emergency. He is himself okay, but for very important reasons he's not here today, so I apologize. But Rory is on the program and was going to address us in a cocktail speech. I think what we're going to do is we'll sit down for a few minutes and or we can stand up. I'm actually tired of sitting.
Okay, we'll stand up here. And by the way, I'm not Steve Poizner again.
So why don't we do this,
Sure.
Rory? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions,
Sure.
but why don't you make yourself comfortable, have a glass of water, and then what I'm curious about really is what's been happening here in San Diego, and maybe for those of us who don't know him so well, Rory has an interesting background. He's a serial entrepreneur, clearly. He has founded about 10 companies, and he tells me at least 6 of them failed.
Lost
So
all
that means
the
4 of
all
them
the money.
did not.
Lost all the money.
Right. So that's a true serial entrepreneur we have in front of us, which is, I think, very fitting for the audience. He's also an acrobatic pilot, and he had promised to send me a video that would make my hair stand up. Because on his bio it says unlimited acrobatic pilot.
It does.
I don't know what unlimited means, but even being a pilot for me is pretty extreme. So that's very interesting. But largely, I think he's mostly here because he runs Southern California's largest incubator, EvoNexus. And I think that's pretty exciting. When we were thinking about where to go next for our events, and you know, we have a lot of places to choose from, one of the attractions, apart from Qualcomm, which is wonderful, was that we were picking up that something is happening in San Diego. Before we get to San Diego, I wanted to just hear from you. You've done all these interesting things. How did you get to do all these interesting things? Whether it is the piloting or working with startups or, you know, making sure that 4 startups succeeded. How did all of this happen?
Well, first of all, to those of you who are disappointed that Steve Poizner is not here, because, you know, Steve's company, SnapTrack, was acquired by Qualcomm back in about the 2000 time frame, and it really enabled Qualcomm with what they had in SnapTrack to put GPS in your phone, kind of a minor invention, right? Putting GPS in your phone. However, my company not only put chips in your phone, we put chips on the Mars Lunar Rover and the Discovery. So Steve didn't do that.
We did one better.
That was Peregrine.
That's good.
So you ask why I did this. I've always been a risk taker. I've never been able to hold a job working for people, so I had to start my own companies. And I've had 10 startups. And as you say, 6 of them failed, 4 of them had an outcome. 1 of them was acquired by Qualcomm, 1 of them went public, 2 others were acquired. And so in baseball, 400 is a pretty good number, unless you lost the money in my first 6.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that, to me, there's no greater joy than starting something from scratch, starting with just 2 guys in the garage, basically, with an idea, and the sacrifice it takes to do that, and the commitment. And that's what gets me up every day when I go into EvoNexus. And I'm surrounded by often young people that are betting the farm on their idea. And you know, they've convinced their family, their friends, that this is the right thing to do. They're living on top ramen and noodles and hot water, basically, in our incubator, and they've given up a perfectly good paying day job to start a company because they believed in something. And that's why I'm there.
So everyone knows about Silicon Valley, and apparently a lot of people want to copy it. We over in Boston think we have a pretty nice little ecosystem going as well. Tell us about San Diego.
Well, first of all, everyone get over it. We're never going to be Silicon Valley, so just accept that. Not going to happen. several of my startups were actually in the Silicon Valley, so I would get up in the morning at 6:30, get on the Southwest shuttle, fly to the Silicon Valley, fly back Friday night. How many have done that? Raise your hand. You know, the commute. The Silicon Valley is unlike anything on the planet. Boston will never be the Silicon Valley, will never be the Silicon Valley. It's just, if you look at history, everything lined up. The banking center of the West Coast was San Francisco, dating back, 100 years, right? You look at the early venture capital funds, they were there. You look at some of the pioneering technologists like, anybody remember the name Shockley? Raise your hand, Shockley Semiconductor. Okay, Shockley Semiconductor was the first semiconductor company in the Silicon Valley before Intel, before anybody else, before Fairchild. So you had these pioneering companies, HP, Shockley, Varian, that happened there, surrounded by venture capital. And then you had these great schools, Stanford and Cal, who were also coming up and doing basic research. So that whole ecosystem just was magic in the Silicon Valley, and it's just hard to replicate that.
But let me skip right to the punchline here. What are you the most proud of that you're working on, I guess right now, or what you've been working on throughout your career in terms of innovation? What are you the most passionate about?
About EvoNexus. I mean, it's great.
Tell us about it, because not everybody knows what this is.
Yeah, this is Admiral Davis. Anybody remember Admiral Davis? He should be here tonight. He was probably got stopped at the stoplight. But the Admiral and I, in 2009, looked up and we saw Lehman Brothers failing, Bear Stearns getting bought for salvage, the financial markets melting down. The movie that was out last year, what was the name of the movie about The Big Short, was actually happening. It was really an amazing time. And we looked around and we saw quietly engineers being laid off, not even, Qualcomm too, companies laying off, stopped hiring. Qualcomm couldn't even give an analyst any kind of a forecast back in those days, along with other companies. So we saw the world coming to an end, basically, worldwide, technology, venture capital drying up. And then we wondered, how in the hell entrepreneurs are going to start a company? In the old days, you cut out a second mortgage on your house, you lived on credit cards, you borrowed money from friends and family. Well, that money wasn't there anymore, right? So we thought we would do something totally unique and form a totally pro bono free incubator and convince the corporations in town to pay for it.
Wow. Give us a
To build the ecosystem.
Give us a sense of the scale of EvoNexus. I mean, you have, what, 10, 20 companies in there?
Oh, I wish we only had 10. We have 49. So wow. We have at any one time 40 to 50 startups in incubation in 3 locations. Not to make this a commercial, but it's companies from all over Southern California. And we've even had a number relocate from Canada to be in the incubator. And at any one time, there are 40 to 50 companies in incubation that can remain anywhere from 5 or 6 months to 2 years. So that's really unique. Most of your accelerators and incubators around the country, they're accelerators because that's what they do. They accelerate your growth. They try to do it in 4 months or 5 months, Well, let me know when you can find a medical device company that can launch in 5 months. This is hard stuff. So we're okay taking in hard science and taking 2 years to get them to product, get them to FDA, or a semiconductor company or something that's really difficult like a genomics company. At the same time, we'll take in Web 2.0 companies that need to bang out 250,000 lines of code. They've got their platform up, and in 6 months, they've got something up and running, and they've got some customers. So it depends on what they are.
So very shortly, we're going to go out and have cocktails, and this is sort of rounding off. What is your message to MIT innovators that we've been talking to all day? You met some of them yesterday. You've come in here to share with us over cocktail your views. But what is the intersection between San Diego and MIT in your view?
Well, it's not just MIT. And I'm going to beat up on the Silicon Valley a little bit. The VCs think intelligent life ends south of San Jose. I swear to God. And so you've got 2 great schools up there, Stanford and Cal. UC Santa Clara is a great school, but it's really these 2 major universities that feed into the ecosystem in Northern California, right? And then you've got the labs up there, Lawrence Livermore and a few others. But down here in Southern California, you've got 12 universities with fantastic engineering schools, if you count the LA area plus San Diego. And MIT is no different. You've got some great schools in Boston area. And
Some 50-plus colleges, yeah.
there you go. And so, but who gets all the headlines? Silicon Valley. Because that's where the VC money is. That's where it pays for the PR, right? So regions like Boston and San Diego have great science, great entrepreneurs. There's only one thing we lack, and that's venture capital. There's only one thing. And you guys don't have a lot of VC money either, quite honestly, compared to the Valley.
Well, I think we have more money than people know, actually. But that's a long story. We hide the money, isn't that what they say on the East Coast? They hide it better.
But the money that's in the Valley is stunning. It's an order of magnitude more than what comes in here.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's very liquid. It's very mobile, the money, right?
yeah, and the other thing the Valley has, and again, we're seeing more of that happen here, when a multinational company decides to put a footprint somewhere in the United States, where's the first place they look? Right? The Valley. So you get these large multinational companies that they establish a footprint in the Valley. We've got to bring them here. We need more of those guys to come down here and establish some sort of a design center, an engineering center. And we can bring them more of the large companies here with just small remote offices. That's going to really grow the ecosystem here too.
Well, this is fascinating. Thanks so much.